Okay, I have been sick every year for the dodgeball.
Okay, half angles. This will, my goal is to get done with notes today so you don't have any notes tomorrow. And tomorrow is totally a work day.
Let's do it.
Okay? So, half angle formulas. These are not on your paper. Okay, so that's why I said you could write them down on your formula sheet, anywhere on the front or back. Totally up to you. The plus or minus has to deal with the angle and what quadrant it's in, and we'll talk about that when it matters on quadrants. And then for tangent, there's two formulas. You can use either one you want. I'll probably use the first one just because it's the first one. Okay, so the first one's triangle. So what do you have to do on triangles first? You gotta find that third side, right? Hypotenuse. So before I can even do anything that says I have to find this third side. So that would be 15 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. So 225 plus 64. So 289. And then I would do the square root. Can you have negative answers on triangles? No. No. Okay, so square root is 279 is 17, or 289 is 17. Okay, is cosecant listed as one of these formulas? No. Okay, so since it's not, you go with the reciprocal. So, what is the reciprocal of cosecant? Sine, cosine, or tangent?
Sine.
Sine. Okay, so we're going to solve this like it's sine, and then we're going to flip the answer in the end. Now, triangles can't be negative, so you're going to do the positive. So I would have 1 minus, okay, cosine, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, so 15 over 17, divided by 2. So this would be 1 minus 15 seventeenths is 2 seventeenths. If I divide that by 2, that gives me a square root of 1 17th. And then if I flip that, what would I have? If I flip 1 17th, square root of 17. That's your answer. Okay, and I only flip it because you're doing reciprocal, because you're finding cosecant. If you want to flip it at the beginning, that's fine. Okay, just remember whenever you flip it. Okay, any questions over that? It's the same as when we did double angles, it's just this time it's a new formula half angle. Everybody's good? Okay, so now we're going to find the exact values of sine, cosine, and tangent. And for this one, you are going to be given the half angle. So if you want to write yourself a note, so you'll know, this will be your half angle. So when I'm plugging numbers in for you, these are full angles. So what will be my U I'm going to use? 150, how do you know that?
75.
Okay, you just multiply it by 2. Okay, 75 degrees. What quadrant is that in? 1. Okay, so is cosine positive in quadrant 1 or negative? Positive. What about sine?
Positive.
So these are both going to be positive out here. Whatever quadrant this is in determines whether or not it's positive or negative on the outside. Doesn't change anything about the inside. Okay? So if I want to find the sine, okay, and I know it's positive, we're going to do the square root of 1 minus cosine of 150 divided by 2.
Can we just put that in our calculator, can we?
As long as it comes out perfectly. But not all, some of them are square 3/2, some are square root of 2 over, well, 150 does have square root of 2/2, but, okay. If it's a half, then it doesn't matter. So these are when you have to use your unit circle. Okay, so what is cosine x? So what's the cosine of 150? Anybody tell me?
The cosine would be 1/2.
Negative,
No, it's
negative square root of
square
3
root
over 2.
over
Negative square root of 3 over 2. So if I already have a negative, and I have two negatives, that's going to change into a positive. Square root of 3 over 2 divided by 2. Okay, you don't have to get rid of square roots, but we can't have fractions with inside fractions. So, in order to get rid of that, you would just multiply by that little denominator, which is 2. Okay, so this would be the square root of 2 plus square root of 3 over 4. And you can leave that. Okay, if you want to get real fancy, if you want to do the square root of 4 on bottom and have this as your answer, those are the same thing. I'm assuming most of you will probably just stop here. Okay. Okay, now what is the difference between sine and cosine on your formulas? Positive or negatives, right? Nothing else changes. So if I know this is my answer, what would be my shortcut for cosine?
Change the sign.
Just change the sign. That's my answer. Hey, if you want to do all the work, I can show that to you.
Nope.
Okay, but they're literally just changing the sign. The only time you really can't do this is when your answers come out like perfectly. Okay, so you want to write down the formula. This is what it was. And then we multiplied everything by 2, which is how we got this. Okay, but if you just remember, these are exactly the same, one's positive, one negative. Okay. And then tangent. Tangent, you don't have to worry about plus or minus on the outside. Sorry, taking care of the formulas. You want to use first one or second one? What do you care?
First one.
First one? Okay, so what's 1 minus the cosine? You already solved that too. That's what we did right in here, right? So 1 plus square root of 3 over 2? Okay. Divided by. Okay, here's what we haven't found yet. We haven't found the sine. Tyler said the sine earlier.
Yeah, so half.
Half. Okay. And then to get rid of the 2's, multiply top and bottom by 2. So this would be 2 plus square root of 3. And then this would be over 1, so you could just leave it 2 plus square root of 3. Okay, so this is if you're given the angle. So we've done triangle, and if you're given the half angle. Everybody okay on that? Okay. Here's the other way you'll see it. These are the same directions as number 2. Okay, U stands for this is the full angle. Okay, so what quadrant is the full angle in? Okay. So quadrant 4. So that means my half angle will be in what quadrant? 2. Okay, and this only matters to know the sign. So x would be negative, y would be positive. Okay, so when I find sine, that'll be positive, but when I go find cosine, now I'm going to have a negative on the outside. Okay, anytime you're given this is x, y, and r. So you did the right triangles, you've done the unit circle. When you have something that just gives you u, this is when you do your x, y, and r. Okay, and this is the full angle. So full angle is in quadrant 4, x is positive, y is negative. And tangent's y over x, so what's my y? How do I know it's negative 5? Okay, because it's in quadrant 2. So the x is positive, y is negative. Half angle signs only matter for out here. Full angles matter in here. Okay? And then to find r, so the square root of x squared plus y squared. So this would be the square root of 89. Which is not perfect. Okay, so find sine. What do you do? Half angle, sine's positive, so this would be the square root of 1 minus cosine. Okay, so what's my cosine? What letters go with cosine?
X over R.
X over R divided by 2. Okay, this part right here needs to be rationalized before we can multiply by the denominator. So how would I rationalize that? Just this part. Okay, so that's just this fraction. So I have 1 minus 8 square root of 89 over 89 divided by 2. So then what would I multiply by to get rid of the 89? So this would be the square root, excuse me, 89 minus 8 square root of 89 divided by 178. That's sine. Okay, I know you're like, that's not the, like, if you saw this on your homework, I know you think that's not the right answer. You're gonna get weird answers on these. You're almost always gonna have a square root inside of a square root. You wanna do the shortcut on cosine?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you know about cosines? They're gonna be positive or negative on the outside.
Negative.
Negative. Okay? Because our half angle's in quadrant 2, which means cosine's negative. Okay, so what happens on the inside of the,
Be positive.
just changes to positive. So you don't even have to do the work. Okay, tangent, do you have a preference on which one to use?
First one.
First one. So 1 minus the cosine, so 8 over square root of 89 divided by, okay, what's the sine?
Negative 5 over square root
Okay.
of 9.
Okay, since both fractions have the square root of 89, you can make your life simple and just multiply by the square root of 89. If you wanna rationalize first and then multiply by 89, that's fine, you'll get the same answer. I couldn't do that in here because this didn't have a square root of 89 on the bottom. Okay? So this would be square root of 89 minus 8 over negative 5. Okay, and I can do this because those both have the same denominator.